bring up today's agenda. A window. There we go. And what I hope everyone is seeing is my local copy of the draft agenda.
Looks good.
Okay. Those of you who are online on your own can also find this at the NatickFOSS.org/agenda page. Mine is showing the local copy, which is not the same address, but this one is without all the other overlays, so it may be easier for everybody to read. I don't see anybody in our current group that has not been here before, so typically we will bypass the introductory slide talk. At the end of the meeting, Dick, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about how that works, because this link goes to your version of the talk at Miller Micro and is an open document presentation and pretty much requires everybody to have open document presentation. So we might want to discuss what to do about that when we get there.
Absolutely. Let's move it over correctly.
All right. The FOSS News begins our presentations for the day. And while this one sounds ominous, it really doesn't turn out to be all that bad. The developers and maintainers of the Linux kernel, which is the interiors of our operating system, the kernel, have been attempting to keep Linux kernels supported back 6 years. And that has turned out to be way too much work, meaning mostly that people who are running very old hardware probably won't get the latest updates. And that turns out to mostly mean Android phones and embedded systems. They're going to limit themselves to 2 years, which apparently was what they had in the past and was doable. For the most part, I suspect those of us using laptops and desktop computers with towers are not going to have much impact from this. Our kernels are going to be only a few issues back. So anybody else have a concern about this? Somebody added the long-term support second item there.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
I don't recall who added that.
I will add that we have clients and we tell them update at least every 2 years. And every 2 hours wouldn't hurt these days. There's a lot of malware floating around that we hear about after it's been out there.
Thank you. I think your volume is up just slightly too loud, Dick.
Speaker.
I would guess the second link there is just a second view of the topic.
I suspect
raises hand.
Anybody know who added the thinking about switching to Linux? I think that might have been an item that Dick offered us. My memory serves correctly. Did we lose Dick's audio?
That article definitely does sound like something Dick contributed.
Dick's computer is hooking up
Disconnected.
and disconnecting.
Oh, boo. Well, 9 things you need to know. Let me go look at it and
Go
see
through
what I
mine.
can
Turn
do
yourself.
to
Yeah.
not make such a mess of it as to be a problem for our viewers offline, particularly. Okay, easier than you think. Okay, we are not stuck with the command line. We have nice desktops.
I'm around the corner on
Linux is
Jim's
on.
computer.
Oh,
You're right.
excuse
I
me.
don't know what hit, but it keeps trying to reconnect. Ah, I may be reconnected.
Oh.
Ed says in chat that he added the second item under Linux News. Different article, same subject as the first, about the kernel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bob.
I guess Ed doesn't have a direct connection to speak to us.
Well, we're having various technical problems. We'll try to deal with them. Linux is not just a kernel. I'm not sure.
Well, that's provocative.
That certainly is. Okay. It's because everybody else says Linux is the operating system. We don't have to worry that GNU/OS is the Unix update that made Linux possible. However, we're moving on.
Streaming is on.
There are distributions out there that represent different appearances of what we call the Linux or GNU OS. And they all have a bunch of names, and you can perhaps see them on your screen: Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Pop OS, Fedora, Cutefish OS, on and on and on and on and on. Those are now called distributions, which is also distros. And some people find that major problem because they don't know which to choose as a new person. Dick and his company have been promoting Ubuntu because it's friendly, and those of us who use versions of Ubuntu tend to agree. Several of our members use Fedora in one form or another and are very happy with that one. Some of the others here represent specialized versions of software mixes that suit different purposes. And there's the famous Arch Linux, I believe, which is for those people who are
Time to give up.
well, you might say complete package averse. Arch is known, I think, for being self-directed, and most beginners don't want that. So we generally recommend Ubuntu and or Fedora, depending on which of us you're talking to. That's a pretty good example. They're all different kinds of running shoes. It's just which brand you want. Different heel and toe drops. Okay. Those of us who walk and wear sneakers are probably understanding that analogy. Many, many choices, which for many of us is good. The desktop is how we see the world, and a lot of us are seeing the world through the standard GNOME of the way a desktop looks. Dick and several others choose to use Unity, and neither of those is exactly the same on any computer because we can add our own choice of layouts and software that we like best. You will find help everywhere. That's point 5 on this list of 9 reasons. We offer help to those who come to visit with us. Dick does commercial help. Some people have reached out to others of us on this group to get answers, and we are happy to provide them when we can. In addition to that, looking up help on the internet can be very productive, as long as you are willing to search to find a relatively ad-free page. Sometimes the ads are much more than you want to try to deal with. Not all hardware will work, but most kinds of computer can have Linux installed on them. You don't need a particular brand from a special company, though there are companies that do support Linux, the operating system and kernel, by being built specifically for those purposes. I use Toshiba at the moment. It's not built for Linux or for GNU OS, but it runs beautifully for me. Some others use other brands of computers and are very happy as well. Applications, boy, you certainly won't want for a choice of applications. There are word processors so that you can write with lots of help. There are word processors that offer you the chance to do only the text and nothing else. No other stuff on the screen but what you're typing. Those can be very good if you're just being an author. Other software does other things, of course. We have lots of people that do video, like Dennis, and the software for that is amazing these days. It's not an amateur process. You'll use your password more often. Well, if you're installing software, that's true. You need special permissions to install software, so almost everybody gets used to typing in their command software password. And that allows you to put stuff in with more security. You don't want someone else to be able to just dump new software, including malware, on your computer. And that's what happens in some other operating system on a regular basis. And it's more secure. Well, that's for sure, because it was built with that in mind. However, all good things are not permanent, and we are gradually needing more and more effort put into security on both other operating systems as well as those based around the Linux kernel. So you should keep up to date as much as your version of Linux allows. When you get the opportunity to upgrade, you probably should consider doing it. Certainly no more than, as Dick said, every couple of years. You want to go from the old long-term support version to your newest long-term support. Other people like Dick are in the position that they want to keep using the latest of the versions, so they work through every 6-month version. October is coming up, and that version 2310 will soon be available for everybody. Dick has been using it, I'm sure, for quite a while in its beta versions, and can recommend that to those who want to be like him on more of the leading edge. All right, I think that covers that particular item. So let me go back to here. and find out if anybody else has comments about switching to Linux.
Algot, I think one thing that newcomers who are just learning Linux should be aware of is the reason why we have so many you have to enter your password moments is because usually they come from Windows or Apple, unlike those operating systems, you don't log in as administrator or with administrator privileges or what we call root privileges. This is one of the security strengths of Linux, but it also, for newcomers, is one of the annoyances. You don't have the permissions because you are running as a limited user. And that also limits the ability of anything malicious to do anything harmful.
A very good point. And that's one of the reasons that we get together every month, so that people who think they know what we're doing, like me, trying to talk to the whole group at once, can get support from people like Bob and Dick and everybody else who has things to offer us beyond what I'm able to do as this chairperson. Okay. Yes, Dick.
Add one. First of all, we'll shortly be celebrating the birthday of Linux on our agenda. It's today. And I just wanted to point out that the flavor of Linux that we happen to choose is Ubuntu. And that's kind of appropriate to what you were just talking about. It's a Swahili word, I'm told. And basically it means together we can do it. And that's what all Linux is about.
And here we are together illustrating that exact concept. Okay, back to the shared screen. Wait. I went to the wrong. I did it again. I did the back arrow and I should not have. Am I back?
Well,
Yes.
at least you didn't kick yourself out of the meeting.
Oh, I did.
Oh, you did?
That's what happened. All right. So
okay, now you know what I did.
Reshare here.
I was more creative. It turned out it was an Ethernet cable, and I pulled it and went back onto Wi-Fi, and here I am.
Oh my goodness, we have
Except
all
you.
levels of technical issues.
Wi-Fi. I should put my desktop on the wire to the router instead of on the Wi-Fi. That might work better.
Well, the good thing about Wi-Fi is you can't step on it.
Yeah.
I suspect that might be the complaint. We'll find out later.
I don't step on my Cat 5. I run it through door hinges.
Okay.
Ah, sneaky. Okay. As Dick was just pointing out, we are, I think, back sharing the agenda. And not only is Linux celebrating around its 30th birthday with this article, Linux kernel turns 30, a retrospective, the overall GNU operating system is turning 40 in just a few days back. Late in September was the day that GNU operating system to free Unix so that it was not somebody's proprietary set of tools was followed up by the need for not only those tools, but for a kernel to make it run. And it was Linus Torvalds as a student in, I believe, the college level, needing to try to practice with his IBM PC clone.
Yeah, let me interrupt. He was a graduate student in Finland.
Correct, thank you. A graduate student, but still a youngster from the perspective of us old folks. The GNU operating system didn't have a workable kernel at the time it was proposed, and is still not separate from its kernel, because you need a kernel that will operate between the programs we run on a regular computer level and the hardware. It's the kernel that intermediates between what we do on the screen and what the hardware does with the bits, flipping switches when needed, on and off and on and off, so that pictures appear on our screen at the right time and text appears where it belongs. You can't have that happen without kernel, and it was Torvalds' work that made the GNU operating system a success. And as a result of that, we have that conundrum of whether to call the operating system GNU OS, which confuses everybody because nobody loves the recursive GNU is not Unix as a way to describe an operating system.
Hey,
Well, some people
Isn't it
are
GNU Herd?
confused by that. Some other people went so far as to call their computer by a popular fruit name. Should we mention the real name? I don't know. Everybody knows the apple, right?
they didn't even spell Macintosh the apple correctly. They spelled it like the raincoat.
Yep.
Well, nobody was perfect, right? In any case, those who want to look to see the original GNU announcement, whether you think it is the big deal or whether you think kernel is the big deal, we will ride right over, because for us who are routine users, we're just happy the two of them got together. Those links take you to celebrations and to the original announcement from I'm losing my brain. The Free Software Foundation, Richard Stallman proposed freeing us from proprietary software back in 1983. So here we are in 2023, enjoying the fruits of those things and talking about them every month. Anybody else have comments about that?
I want to mention one of the secrets behind it. It's not technical. It's called the copyleft. Copyrights are what makes everything else different from open source software. And this does not have no controls. It has a control that says, instead of saying nobody can share, you're saying, I built this on top of other people's stuff, and I promise to share mine as well. That's a copyleft. I think it shines a lot of light on a copyright.
It does. Absolutely. Any other contributions about our history? Okay. I'm sure some of you will have reflections as you read those articles, and be happy to share them with us using the NatickFOSS Discuss mailing list. If you haven't joined that already, I do recommend that you consider signing up for the NatickFOSS Discuss mailing list. If you need to find where to do that, go to natickfoss.org. Let me do that right now. And as you read down the page, you will come to a section that talks about how to get to our meeting archive, our public documents page, and how to sign up for the NatickFOSS Discuss mailing list. This information is live, so you can get there and request the chance to be part of the active group of members rather than just watching us on YouTube sometime later. Okay. And now that we're on the edge of the question of copyright versus copy left, we have a court settlement, a court decision that the United States copyright law does not recognize those things as produced by ChatGTP, but specifically not artwork, as something that can be held with copyright. You cannot use one of those images that were produced by AI, artificial intelligence, as a copyright eligible item, because the court has decided that humans must have created the work as an individual or apparently as a corporation, because somehow Disney and all the other media corporations hold copyright on lots and lots of stuff. So corporations must be humans, right?
Well, no, that's the humans have assigned their personal rights to the corporation. Same as with patents.
But corporations can donate money to the campaigns of people.
They've been recognized as persons for the
persons.
First Amendment of political donation purpose, but they've not been recognized as persons for copyright. They can have it assigned to them, but they can't invent.
Okay. For the purposes of copyright, I have taken this from its original author. Okay. But copyright is one of those things that has changed over time. We had the original US copyright of 14 years with the option to double that if you reapplied. 28 years used to be it. And now the life of the author plus 90 years. Somehow, when corporations get involved in that, it's the life of the corporation plus 90 years. So,
no, not true.
Not true?
No.
Well, that's interesting. Where is that?
Copyright, an assigned copyright reverts to the heirs on death.
Ah, okay. Can you post a link that would explain that to me? Because I'm interested in this topic, obviously. Otherwise, I will use the great search tools and locate that myself.
Yeah, these days you're better off starting at Wikipedia than Google.
That's true. That's true. Okay. I think we are at the first true demo that we have planned. So I'm going to defer momentarily to Jerry Feldman, who's going to do a demo of the latest and greatest of hot software in Fedora 39. Stop sharing.
Okay, just as you said that, I got a software update for my car, which also runs Linux. Okay, let me go and share my screen.
I guess that's better than a destroyer running Windows.
And here are some of the new features. Okay. Again, the release date's October 17th. We're running a GNOME 45, which is new. They have the Onyx spin, a colored bash prompt, application updates, which I really don't know much of, and performance refinements I've seen. Here's the colored bash prompt. For some reason, I'm not getting it on my Windows. I can show you my Windows actually come out with a blue background, and I'm using the standard prompt. I will share that when I get finished with the presentation. Okay, GNOME 45 has new core apps, which I'm not going to talk about. New About panel, Privacy Hub in system settings, and new improvements to Nautilus file management. I'll fix that. Okay, and here is the new About panel on my system. So it's saying I have 6 terabytes of memory. I have I have 2 removable hard drives. One is 4 terabytes and one is 2 terabytes. But I also have a 500 gig SSD, an M2 on the board. So I thought that was pretty nice. And the Privacy Hub, it's in system settings again. You've got the screen lock, location services, trash, diagnostics, cameras. I like the microphone control. That was more difficult because somehow my camera would wink off during a Jitsi presentation. And it was just, I could control the microphone through the other app. And let's see. And for Nautilus File Manager, there's performance improvements and a new separation of the file folder area from the main panel on the left. I thought that's pretty cool, but I wasn't able to do it on my file manager. So I'll have to wait until I get another update. And my presentation was pretty quick. And I've been running Fedora 39. I have the only problem I had with Fedora 39 initially is when I installed it, it came back during the update process, came back to the login prompt. I logged in and I really couldn't do anything. It hadn't crashed. The desktop was kind of messy. So I ended up rebooting and everything was fine. And the only thing I don't have right now is I usually put my favorites on top, on the top panel. And those GNOME extensions have not been updated yet. I expect those to come in a week or so. So
as a developer, I could tell you that's the thing I dislike the most about this new version of Fedora is that I created a GNOME shell extension and found that GNOME 45 broke all of them.
Ooh.
So every single developer had to go over and make changes.
yeah,
I understand why they did it. I'm hoping this is not something they do a lot.
Were you warned? Were developers given a lead time on it, or did it just break in beta?
Yeah, I found out about it. I didn't have it fixed by beta. It was a little bit later, but
Yeah.
but there's been a lot of warnings about it. So, and they did have pretty good information on how to update everything. And they have a matrix channel that I couldn't get something running, went there, and the people there solved it for me real quick.
That's good. It is very helpful, and this is part of the operating system process that is only true when you have what we call FOSS and copyleft and open source with all their varied meetings. You get outside contributions that aren't from the core developers that get accepted relatively quickly, and the core developers seem to be friendly to the idea of those outside developers knowing what's going on, that the core developers are not keeping secrets from the rest of the world. They publish the documentation as well as they possibly can. Sometimes it's better than others as documentation goes, but those pieces of documentation get augmented by the conversations that go on behind the scenes between the core developers and the exterior amateurs, we might call them, even if they're very professional. They aren't excluded, and things that get suggested are sometimes incorporated into the core. Very powerful system for making a responsive operating system instead of one that only deals with the damaging moments as they come up. Okay, I guess I'm back to sharing here. So let's get to that process. A window. And we're up to hot hardware. And the first piece is part of what might be called planned obsolescence these days. Google says it cannot fix Pixel watches. So go ahead, buy a new one. And Apple recently had an ad on TV through T-Mobile, I believe, was the service that was being promoted. They say, oh, everybody has the right to upgrade every year when they are here with us at T-Mobile. How is that not planned obsolescence? That you update your phone every single year at, who knows, $1,000, $1,200 a piece? Good grief. I don't know how much a Pixel watch costs, but I'm sure it's more than I want to pay. I'm currently using a 10-year-old Casio that has only had one battery change in that 10-year period. No, excuse me, it's not a Casio, it's Timex. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Okay, anybody have a Pixel watch? I know Dick has some similar thing, but it's not one of the big names.
I've got a Samsung.
Are you happy with it?
Yes.
Does it update easily?
Yeah, it works. The only problem I've ever had is the bevel on it gets hard to twist. I took it to U-Break iFix.
Mm-hmm.
The guy fixed it in 2 seconds, didn't charge me. I was there for a different reason.
Okay.
Just the fact that it's difficult to turn. You have to use more force. And I really never twist the bezel anyway. So if I did that more often, I would. But I use features. And also a new feature I've upgraded from the Dexcom G6 to a Dexcom G7. And the G7 has an app where you can display it on the watch. Which,
Comment on that?
excuse me?
A comment. This is that watch that we've been liking. I think they're now about 2 years old. Been running fine, no issues. Unlike the expensive ones, the battery doesn't need to be charging for close to 2 weeks, at least 10 days.
Man,
They don't mention that problem, and very easy to recharge. And it does much more than we need, including synchronizing with your phone or whatnot to take pictures remotely, and all those extras that you use once in a while, maybe. Uh, Uses a standard app that's shared by many, and it doesn't have a brand name. I know some brand names for it, but basically it comes out of the same Chinese factory production line as many others, and it's called a C17, C17. Whatever the brand name is, look beyond that, see if it's a C17. We think they're good. I don't know about deep diving with them, but swimming works, all kinds of things work. And in the same sense, I mentioned an extra cheap flashlight with no brand name. That's at Harbor Freight Tools. A bunch of people called me after I mentioned it. They don't have it. They have it again. So they ran out once the word got out and how good they were. $4, no more batteries or bulbs to replace, and it plugs in the cigarette lighter for charging. These are the things we love. They're so cheap and they're so effective, and they stay a secret because of all the powerful advertising by the big ones.
do you need to update the software ever?
Well, we run on Android for our smartphone, and when we tell it to upgrade, it upgrades that too. We can set it to ask us one by one, but we just do it in bulk. The answer is yes, it gets updates.
Sounds
And
good.
you can do that on Apple machines too, although I bet Apple doesn't like that.
Okay, where am I? There it is.
Oh, by the way, I think I didn't mention $1,100, $500. The one I'm talking about costs $25 delivered. Enough said.
Enough said, indeed. Okay, so over here I go, and I'm still sharing, I think. Good news from Google is that people complained, and the Chromebooks support has been extended from 8 years to 10 years. I know nothing about this particular problem. I think this might have been from Bob.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
The item which I have there, I can probably do a screen share.
Oh, let me stop.
Well, let me see.
Or shall I just click on that?
If you like, you may do that. I can then not
Then you
share
can
my
just talk about it.
Yeah. I didn't do the one on the support. It's the one below it in the agenda. It's not that article.
Oh.
It's the link below that in the
Alright.
agenda.
back.
Okay, Algot, I submitted this one.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah. The blue
okay,
link that
then,
says when the data is wrong was the one I submitted. What good are wearable computers if the data is wrong?
I skipped
That's
right over that.
That's an
I'm
embedded
so
link.
sorry.
Then we come to Ed's item.
I skipped right over your link then, Bob.
Yeah, that's what I was
Let's not
saying.
have that happen.
That's what I was saying. It's just
Okay.
a little item, and if we can get to it, it's from the New York Times.
Oh, I may not be
Yes, we're
able
good.
to
You get at least one
fully
article.
show that because I don't have a.
You get at least one
Yep.
article before that happens. I think you can still continue. No,
I have exceeded mine, so
I
I'm
see.
going to
I'll
unshare to
share
let
and
you
I'll see what
share.
I can do.
Okay.
Okay, let me
share.
share the entire screen. And let me see whether I can get to the archives item and whether I can get to data is wrong. I'm doing, okay. Just a moment. I may not be able to show this either. Okay. Well, then I will discuss what the situation is. Basically what the article did was it went through the author of the article was wearing a smartwatch and going through various apps, and the apps were not giving data that was actually accurate. That is to say, the data was off by a significant amount from measurements that could be made with medical devices. But the point that he made was the smartwatches still are very good because you don't pay attention to the actual numbers as much as you pay attention to the trends, the changes in the numbers. And this is how AFib is detected. This is how various sleep issues are detected. It's not that you have numbers that tell you go to the doctor. It's that you have a trend that says you should probably talk to a doctor about this. And same thing with the blood oxygen levels. It won't tell you that you have dangerously low levels, but if your levels are dropping and there's a trend in that, you should probably be checked out. And it's time to get medical help. And that's what people found with COVID. It wasn't so much knowing your numbers as it was knowing when they change. And the same thing is true if there were one that could tell what your blood sugar was or something like that. So
the upshot is we have tools that are usable as long as we use them as well as we can.
Yeah. It's the trend, not the exact numbers, that seems to be more important.
And we hope that in general, we will find links that are accessible to everybody before we put them into our agenda for
at the
you.
time it was. At the time I put it in, it was accessible. They changed it more recently.
I'm not complaining to you particularly. Just as a rule, we will try as a group to make sure that our use of the internet available materials is as accessible as we can make it. Okay.
May I comment?
Yes, and thank you, Dave.
On the same concepts, but a different topic. Joe and I attended a very good talk last week on weather, climate change, and global warming. The same point was at the root of it. The weather goes up and down, and it's still going up and down. We're afraid everything's getting too hot, but somebody points out that was the coldest February 24th in N years, and suddenly everyone's questioning global warming. Ignore the short trends, average them into the long trends, and you start getting the real data. Same topic, same comment.
Also, the more energy in the system means the waves in the system will be more extreme.
Mm.
So you'll have higher highs and lower lows and more of them.
Exactly.
Bigger droughts, longer droughts, more often droughts, bigger floods, more often floods. The 100-year flood is now the 10-year flood. The 1,000-year flood is now the 100-year flood.
We live in interesting times, and that's an ancient Chinese curse.
Yes.
I'm going down to New Orleans in a couple of weeks, and I hope I don't have to drink salt water from the tap.
Visit any place you want to see again.
Hmm.
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
From now on, your next visit to New Orleans has a distinct chance of being your last visit. So visit everything.
Mm.
We're going, there's a new museum down there that is in the first circle on the streetcar line, the St. Charles streetcar. I forget the name of the museum. I can look it up real quick. But we're going to walk there, see that. We all have tickets to it.
Bring your personal portable desalination unit.
And your scuba deer.
I am certified NAUI and NAT and the other one.
Mm. Okay, back to my sharing, I guess.
Dick, can you turn down the volume of your microphone? You're echoing.
Thank you. Is your mic on? Okay.
No, Joel is muted. It's just your mic is causing an echo through your speakers.
My mic is not on, I don't think. Nope.
No, you're muted, Joel.
Sound. Input.
Are we set at this point?
This one.
Is this better?
For the moment.
Much better, yes.
Okay. I guess we're to Ed, who had the extension of Chromebook support. Any more details on that?
Other than what's in the article, no, there was a backlash about support, and I guess Google decided to be generous and added 2 more years to it.
Okay. I have a feeling that part of that backlash was from educational users. I think I mentioned I may not have mentioned it here. We had Apple IIe's at my school, and we used them for 14 years with students. Heavy use every day, 7 classes a day, and we made 14 years out of them with almost no repairs required. So if you look at the Chromebook in education trend, where I guess a lot of them are in use on a regular basis, it would, based on my experience, that administrators would be quick to say, wait, we need these old ones to work as long as we possibly can. We don't have the budget to replace them every 6 months or a year. So that article is probably worth looking at if you have Chromebooks in your stable of computers. And that leads us to the Raspberry Pi 5 announcement, which has just been made very public. They are coming out during this month with the 5th full version of the Raspberry Pi. And simultaneously, Ubuntu has announced that they will, as a routine, I guess, be supporting that new chipset as much as they have supported Raspberry Pis in the past. So 2310 will work with Raspberry Pi when it comes out. Now, if you can't get one, don't be surprised. You can get 2310, but for Raspberry Pi 5, you will need to get on a waiting list. Those who are ordering them are finding that it will be December before you can get one unless you were a very early sign in to pick one up during October. They're just becoming available commercially as we look into the next couple of weeks. As Pis go, you don't need a Raspberry Pi to do ordinary work, they say. But a Raspberry Pi 5 allows for a good deal more capacity if you have a very heavy load to do, like development work and or video work, transcoding of some sort. Those tend to be very heavy requirements on a processor and the GPU as well as the CPU, computer processing unit, central processing unit, and graphics processing unit. Those are much more powerful on this new Raspberry Pi. I have ordered one and am expecting to know when it will come by the next week or so when I get the notice, but it probably won't be till the beginning of the year that I'll get to report back on it. Right now, I am running a very original Pi to do the weather station, as I probably mentioned in a past meeting, and explore what the temperature is outside with very little trouble. It runs and runs and runs. And if you want to see its look, this is what it looks like when reported from the Raspberry Pi.
Nice.
Right now, the barometer is slightly dropping. The outside temperature is 79 degrees. This is current information outside my house. And if you can see the the address line, it's running on my #1 Pi. And the software is WeWix, which is a piece of software that is free to everybody to use. Okay. By a twist of fate, I was at the skin doctor earlier today, and you might want to know that he runs his entire office. Every computer in his office is a Raspberry Pi.
Wow.
And he does his own telephone system with it, running the software that is one of those phone over IP kind of softwares. And that too is something that he works well with. So you want a good experience with Raspberry Pi. He's a great person to talk to, understands it tremendously. Okay, as I say, I will report back once I get my Pi 5 and let you know how much more it can do than my Pi 1. Hot internet, next topic on the list. Unicode Consortium has approved Emoji 15.1. meaning you can have more funny pictures than you ever thought possible. This is adult shaking head. You can see all those, head shaking vertically. Phoenix, lime. I don't know whether any of these things make sense to anybody except those who use them all the time. I'm still back in the old days using emoticons, which were those fun little things with the sideways smiles. But it's nice to know that these things have not only caught everybody's interest, but that the pros in the community, the Unicode professionals, are allowing these things to become part of the standards of our internet usage. And internet standards are a very big deal. Okay. Firefox.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just put out a note for next month. I expect we're apt to be talking about something I'm just catching up on. Who is it? I think Google is doing something like that you can pick up and slap into your messages to send to other people with built-in AI. They sound smart. You can click on them and get feedback. And it turns out they come with some pretty powerful new ways to misuse them also. So stay tuned. It's sort of super emoji.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad.
I
You
have
send it as an emoji and it arrives as an email.
Yeah, it's apparently it does not meet the standards of all the history of email. Email is built around standards from the 1970s rather, and when you send one of these new Google things, it doesn't even come in the same email. I know what this thing is. In order to handle it, it comes in as a completely separate piece of mail,
Huh.
not just an embedded piece, not just a thing you can look at on your computer, but in order to arrive properly, it comes in as an item all on its own with no real connection to the email that it was supposed to be part of. And people who are still email users, the last 6 or 8 of us, are not happy.
My next theory is that their AI is so smart, it's holding it back until you're sleepy and you'll press that button.
Oh, boo. Firefox 118, which has come to my computer just a week ago, has the ability now to do translations of web pages with no requirement that they be a translation done by Google or by some external program. It's built into Firefox now. Has anybody else tried it? Well, then I'll give a.
I looked in on a online demo of it. I haven't tried it.
Okay, let me quickly click to here and go to La Prensa, a Mexican newspaper. Or did I get that wrong? I may have gotten that wrong. No, I had it spelled right.
Al got it. Might be .com.mx.
I think it's .mx.
Only.
Yes.
It's coming up very slowly on my computer, and it came up quickly the first time I tried. Well, maybe I can do do it that way.
Huh.
And there it goes. .com. All right. I had complete misspelling. It's la-prensa.com.mx. In any case, the very first time I visited here, it popped up the offer to translate within, and I didn't do it this time.
A demo.
I was hoping that it would do the same thing.
Is this an add-on that you need to?
No, it isn't. That's the thing.
Huh.
Algot, click the icon next to the blue star.
Icon next to the, oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. I hadn't actually noticed that. So it's built right in up here on the address bar at the far right, the second closest to the star, which is a recognition thing where you want to put it as a bookmark. It offers you to translate this page. I got a little pop-up message the very first time I tried it. But if I do that, this is the pop-up I saw, and it offers me the chance to translate the entire page without going out to the internet other than where I already am to get a translation. I don't know how good the translation will be, but if you don't read Spanish, this would be a tremendous time saver, if nothing else, and a little bit more private if you had web pages that you were going to that you didn't want to tell Google you were trying to translate. So that's the big key. If I click on this, it says it's going to make a translation. I don't, oh, there it is. There it is, coming in slowly.
Yes.
Report vehicle dump on the second floor of the peripheral. I don't know exactly what that translation means. Multiple leaks of cylinders feed the fire, said the Vulcan chief. I guess the fire department's chief? That is possible.
Sounds more like Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect yet. It says that this is service is beta, but here we are. Woman arrested for murdering her partner. She threw her from a 13th floor. Woo! Well, this is too much for me, so I'm going to go back from here.
Whoever suffered from the bed bugs.
What was that?
Never. We snip their wires.
Oh, there you go.
I am interested in, did you choose English?
Yes.
I have Firefox 118. I do not have that icon. And I'm wondering if it's because I'm in English, an English site. For instance,
Yes.
I might like to translate English into French or Esperanto or some other language that I sort of speak, that to see what it might look like and to get an eye, for help language learning. So apparently it doesn't do that.
I suspect that this is very early beta in the sense that it probably doesn't recognize every language out there and has not yet bent to the will of people like you and me who want to benefit from translating from English to another language. I would hope that in reading the notes about this, we might find out when that offer will be made so we can go from English to Spanish. And in the application menu, there is a translate page. So I wonder if on an English page, you would go to this version of the link and maybe do a better job. Let's go try that. Let me go to our page, the FOSS user group, and pull down translate page. Yes, translate page offers English to,
Esperanto.
I'm going to try Spanish because that's, let's do French. You mentioned that, Michelle.
Français, s'il vous plaît. S'il te plaît.
Is it working? Ah, there it is up at the top. La groupe des utilisateurs de logiciels libres se réunit du 30 heures à 50 heures, non, 15 heures le premier le matin de la plupart des mois.
That's a very French-sounding Esperanto.
That's all right. That's not
From
a
1
terrible
1
translation.
p.m. to 3 p.m. I think that's a mistake. The first morning.
I see what we'll be doing instead of dinner tonight.
13 hours is wrong. It says that says 1 o'clock.
Right. It
Yeah.
says 1 to 3 and it says morning. And it says but it's second Thursday is correct.
Yep. So it has a way to go.
Excellent.
It's modifying the time zone too.
Ah.
I don't think it's really doing that. I think it's just wrong.
Well,
4 hours difference, but who's counting?
Obviously, well, but it does say further down that today's was at 15 hours. So that's correct.
Well, the first is an English sentence without really referring to a date, but the date part, as you note, the date part is recorded there as a date
Right.
in the original English. Huh. Very interesting.
Getting
But
good.
as beta software, it's not horrible.
Right.
And it wasn't fast, but it worked fast enough so that it caught up to our needs. And I'm sure it will get better over time, especially if people use it and send notes to the Firefox.
I wonder if they have the Quebecois
Dialect.
French dialect as well as official French.
Let's
I always
check.
wonder if we translate from English to UK.
Translate page, choose language. No, they don't have it nearly as many as you might hope. Bulgarian, Dutch, English, French, German, Italian, Polish, Portuguese, and Spanish are the only ones there.
We need
Well,
Esperanto.
Portuguese.
Now, I wonder,
Good for the Brazilians in Framingham.
true, this is from English 2. Let's look at the translate from. Translate from is the same list.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not nearly as extensive as the Google Translate. If you use that, you can
Right.
have probably 50
The Google
languages.
Translate has languages I've never heard of.
And lots of them.
Right.
but they're trying to cram this entire thing into whatever computer facilities you have on your own computer. So it's going to take time for them to come up with translations that are small enough that they can be put into the resources of your own computer rather than being sent out to the cloud, where the giant cloud computer networks that do the translation can group their results together for you. I think it's worth noticing,
Yeah,
so that you
cool.
can try it out and see what you think.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I recommend that you update to Firefox 118. Speaking of which, I'm going to also point out that I have upgraded my Thunderbird to whatever version it is. You're not seeing what I'm doing right now. My Thunderbird is updated to 115.3.1, the Supernova, and it is different. It's really a dark stripe at the top on my, or normally whitish looking screen. And where am I supposed to be? Here? No, here. Help. Here I'm supposed to be. Okay, this window. You did not see what I was looking at, but if you have not upgraded to that version, be prepared for seeing quite a few differences. It handles the mail pretty much the same, but it looks different. Anybody
I
else?
hope it's not light gray on black.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of these things are light gray on black, I can barely see them.
Yes.
Yeah, that was something that I had difficulty with, and I tried to do a demo of. I did a demo maybe 2 months ago about how I changed in Deconf Editor how the system assigns those colors so that it's prefer light instead of prefer dark.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific place in the GNOME theme where that happens.
Is that link in the archives?
It should be if I demonstrated to this group and not to, it wouldn't be to another group because it was Linux. Although I do belong to another Linux user group. I can repost. Well, I can see whether the link is there.
Okay,
Do that, please.
thank you.
So what we're asking about is theming.
All right. While Bob is doing that, I'll go back to my Firefox screen here. We're half an hour from the end, and we have quite a few topics to try to cover before that time runs out. Dangerous. Oh, some spam. Oh, wait a minute. I missed the W3C updates for accessibility guidelines, and I have not spent a moment on this, just posted it because I saw the link. But we have had our first update for those with impairments of vision, hearing, and many other things. The guidelines that browser people and web development folks are responsible to have been updated for the first time since 2008. If you have an interest in being current on helping those with special needs of this sort, the blind, the deaf, you should read the new updates. I'll leave that to you. All right, Ed, some spam might not actually be spam. How can that be?
All right. Well, this is a result of a recent incident and an incident from many years ago. Probably at least 15 years ago, maybe a little longer. My internet provider had a breach that exposed probably an untold number of email addresses, and unfortunately, mine was one of them. And the ID monitoring service that I have, when I had last checked for some information, the email addresses are apparently still out there on the dark web after all these years. And well, fast forward, well, that was actually the start of getting spam at that address. But fast forward to today, I started getting some emails from a somewhat well-known dating website. Some went into the inbox, some went into spam. So I decided to look at this because this was a first for both folders. And the links in the email matched the legitimate website. So I ended up going to the website, sent a password reset request, and if there was an account created with the email address, I would get an email with the link to reset it. 2 minutes later, bang, there it was. So what was happening is somebody was taking these email addresses and they were creating accounts on this dating website using a fake name. And in my case, it was just a jumble bunch of letters that made absolutely no sense. So I went back to it, contacted the website, informed them that apparently an account was created with my email address. You know, please note I did not open this. Please delete the account and please stop the emails from coming in. A couple hours later, I got a response back from them with an apology that they have deleted the account, and that also stopped the emails from coming in. So this was probably that very rare 1% that would look like spam, but it turned out to be actually legitimate under false pretenses.
That's
So sort of spam, but not.
Yeah.
Yes, it was kind of unusual where I saw it in both folders, so that's why I wanted to check the links to make sure they weren't spoofed or anything, and they all matched the legitimate site.
Mm-hmm. And then there are the ones where, for instance, our credit union uses some service for sending out messages that looks to me like a spam address, but it's legitimate, which is annoying.
You don't want too cute or too dumb.
Yeah, my credit union does that too. Actually, it could actually be the same credit union. It'd have like their name and then a hyphen and then something else.org, and that's why it looks,
Yeah. One of my banks, which is one of the smaller banks, local banks, uses the same service. So usually if they say, you have a new credit report, I just log on to I don't click the link. I log on and look at it that way, just to be sure.
Yeah, and that's really the best way to do it.
Until they learn how to spoof that.
Right.
Alcott?
Yep, I'm trying to verify that I have a screen share that's working.
We can see it.
Yep. Okay. The screen share is working, and we've got dangerous Android malware stealing from 100 banking apps. Stealing what? I'm not sure. I think this was somebody else that put this in. Maybe in the same group
I
as.
sent that along.
Pardon, Dick?
I think I had sent it along. I have seen it.
Okay.
Now, Algot, that was one I submitted.
Another one from Ed.
Oh.
You have more on it?
Not really. The article listed a bunch of banks that this malware was attacking on the Android phone. So I figured I'd make a list of the local banks that I'd recognize and put it here.
Okay, thank you. We will have the opportunity to follow up on that link ourselves, and maybe somebody can report back with an update from their own banking experience.
I'll mention, I'll mention that it's one of quite a few I've been reading in the last month or so, and they all have one thing in common: the significant length of time between when they discover it and when they tell the public about it. Not good.
But not surprising. Very few 0-day, as they call them, exploits are reported from the original discoverers, while those original discoverers, usually security software people, contact the banks that are involved or the organizations that are involved. It's only when those banks don't respond, when those organizations drag their feet on dealing with it, that the original researchers release the information to the security sites that publish the security warnings. If the bank handles it, then it's more coordinated between the infected and affected organization and the researchers who report it. So
There's also a hope that they have a patch for it
exactly
before they announce it. Otherwise, they're inviting other malware to use the same hole.
And that's a dance that will never be quite successfully fixed, I'm afraid. Okay, we have a whole bunch of these security things. I did not post any of them. I have a feeling that these were all dropped in under that same umbrella from Ed. Anything there that needs to be discussed?
Are we up to the ones about Windows Copilot, or are we still doing Wi-Fi eavesdropping?
That's where we're at. Wi-Fi eavesdropping and
that's Ed.
Beyond.
That's Ed. If it is anybody.
Okay. Anybody want to grab a hold of that one?
I think I'm going to read it, but I don't think we can do a hell of a lot about it.
Yeah.
The Apple one that comes next, I think, is just astonishing. Featuring Google as the default search. Google tracks. Google monetizes your private info. Putting it on Apple seems like a real reverse of policy. Everything's getting amazing.
I have a feeling that Apple is very unhappy that they don't have their own successful search engine. If it isn't homegrown, they don't seem to care much about the viability and interplay with systems.
Yeah.
So since it's not an Apple product, they're willing to get money from Google to make it the default.
Valuable data.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. How about Windows Copilot? Anybody got an idea on that?
That was where I had some articles. These are all related to AI being integrated at a deeper level in the operating system than it has previously been. And some people find that there's great promise in this. Some people find that there's a great threat to security and privacy, or at least privacy and freedom. I think the first article about Windows Copilot and then the one about the Linux distro are the only ones we need to pay any attention to in this meeting. So, Algot, if you could see if we can get into the first one about Windows Copilot, that's the article that has an explanation of what's going on with Windows. And this is all about, let's do the key takeaways. This is all about how Windows Copilot could alter the way we use our computers. And if we could scroll just a little bit, because I have a toolbar that's a little bit in the way. Yeah. So Windows Copilot down, up just a hair toward the top of the page. And then we'll have it. Okay, yeah, good. Windows Copilot is the new personal assistant, and it uses artificial intelligence to help you do more faster. I don't know exactly what it will be doing, and I think we'll be seeing after the fall release of the feature upgrade in Windows 11. This does not apply to Windows 10, but Windows 11, we'll see more about what it can do. They're talking about things like helping you complete emails or write emails, or making templates for emails, preparing documents. We can X out of that LifeWire ad. There we go. And it's like a chatbot, and it does chatbot style output. Or you can submit your own writing, and it will show you different ways of presenting that writing. You could also use the AI to find information that is going to be used across applications, which obviously means it has access to different applications. Copilot is competing against standalone products like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Bard. In order to use this, you would have to be logged in such a way that you have access to your Microsoft account, which is a cloud account, and so that you would have access to Bing and Edge, which means you would have to be online. And there's much discussion about what this might mean for the privacy of your data and things like that. If we can go back to the agenda, then we can go into the other item.
All right.
Yeah, the other item is the one that's the Linux distro. Yeah. So here we have, there's a Windows Copilot alternative for Linux. And as we scroll down through this one, we just simply have a little bit of an advance. We might have to hit the read more button up there in order to see the rest. There's a read more button in blue. But anyway,
There's a join button in blue.
there's a read more button just about at the top. Now it's at the bottom of the screen. And
It's over the graphic.
there we are. It's on the graphic, yeah.
There
And
it is.
then if we scroll down, it shows a little bit about what it would look like. If you want to take a look, you can see more about it. And there is also a link to GitHub where you can take a look at what the author has to say about it. And basically, they are putting AI into a Linux distro, and they're still building it. It's still, I guess, alpha, not even beta. But this just shows that it's not just Windows. The AI elements are coming to Android. They're coming to Mac OS, iOS for the phones and for the Macs. And they are coming to some distros of Linux. The main point being, in Linux, you can choose whether or not to have a distro that has this. Whereas if you're going to do the other big tech operating systems, you don't get to choose when it arrives or how it arrives. You can turn it
Who else
off.
it arrives to?
What?
Or who else it arrives to?
Right. And the thing is, yes, you can turn it off after the fact, but by that time, it's already had access to your operating system. And in Linux, you can just simply avoid having it altogether. One of the advantages of open source versus these closed source operating systems. So that's what I have.
Oh, fantastic.
Hey, Algot, scroll to the top of this page.
Okay.
Move it
I'm
down
there.
a little. Move it down a little bit. Okay, you notice that the frame on the right, the text is superimposed over the graphic. Are we looking at a bug in Firefox?
No, I think this is a bug in my screen. I think this was one of those. I've got a big screen layout, so when I develop this Reddit, I'm going to let the graphics of the middle column extend over if they want to. The text doesn't extend over, but the graphic does. And it's a CSS kind of issue, a layout issue. And the guy who developed this probably has a much wider screen resolution than I do. It's one of the things that you have to work hard to avoid when you're doing web pages. And this is just a web page issue, I think. Is that okay?
All right.
Okay. So back to the agenda. So all of these are talking here about the building in of AI. I don't like that term because I don't think it's intelligent at all. But we are being faced with its presence, and it's becoming difficult to know whether you're talking to a real person or some bozo that isn't a real person. I'm glad to say I'm a real person, and I think all of you are. So thank you for not being one of these loonies that is a fake person.
The other thing that Windows may be trying to do, Microsoft, is reduce support costs because they're using the AI for their help and for their troubleshooters and getting rid of the traditional troubleshooters.
I'm sure there will never, ever, 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 ever be a problem with that. I have dealt with one after another of the troubleshooters of equipment, and they all follow some kind of script unless you get to the third level. Level one of every technical support I've ever contacted has question number one: did you unplug your computer? Can you plug it back? Would you restart your computer?
Yeah.
One after another. And as a result, I've wasted 45 minutes on every tech call that I've ever made until I got to the third level where the person said, "Oh, you know what you're talking about." And that's
Absolutely.
understandable, but how is AI going to be different from that? I don't know. I'm skeptical.
It might possibly detect sensible person quicker. But with the number of people whose computers are unplugged from either the power or the internet who are needing help, those scripts are absolutely essential.
I'm sure we'll get used to it, and probably we won't complain as much as we get used to it. But for now, at my age, I guess I'm skeptical. Okay, we added a new thing. I don't think Dennis has a game of the month. Am I right, Dennis?
I do.
Oh, you do! Exciting!
Yeah.
Almost
I
skipped over you.
I added it in today, so that's why it's not on there.
Shall I stop sharing so you can?
Sure. One thing I did add to the agenda as well is a link to the Godot Development Fund. So basically, Godot is a game engine. It helps people make video games. There are two really big commercial game engines, uh, Unreal and Unity, not to be confused with the desktop environments that Dick runs. Unity, the Unreal one has a flat 5% of your revenue after a certain amount as royalties. And Unity had a subscription model where you pay this flat subscription fee and you can do whatever you want for your game. They don't get any more money from you. In September, they decided to change that. Their policy was crazy. It was based on a fee per install of your game. So if someone buys your game and installs it on 5 machines, despite the fact that you get paid once, you'd have to pay them 5 times.
Oh, oh,
It was really poorly conceived. Everyone was upset about it. They eventually walked it back and went back to more of a revenue share that's less than Unreal, but still something like that. But also, one of the other things that they said was that originally this was retroactive. All games would start doing this, which lawyers said, yeah, that's probably not going to pass legal muster. But even though they walked it back enough that people can keep using it, a large number of game developers have said that they've lost trust in Unity because of this and because of other changes that they've done recently. And so the the Godot Development Fund was at something like 25,000 euros per month. It is currently sitting at like 50,000 euros per month. So it doubled the amount of people. There were game studios that went over and said, look, we're not paying Unity a monthly fee anymore. We're putting that into Godot.
Jerry, did you intend to ask a question?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'll get back. I said earlier I was having trouble with the GNOME terminal with the color prompt. I was using my private profile. I wasn't using the standard profile. I just checked that out and it worked fine.
Okay.
So you do get the color prompt automatically with GNOME 45.
So that's my little spiel about what's going on with this game development engine. For the game of the month, though, I tried out this game called Acid Flight. And so I will share a video of it that I made. All right, so what we have here is Acid Flight. As you can see, it's got a pretty... or I won't. All right, so what we have here is Acid Flight. I guess we're going with technical issues today.
I think so.
All right, well, I guess I can't share the video of it. Wait, why is it? Oh, okay. Let me see if I can share a different video. So this is going to be the trailer that basic premise here is that it's a kind of like a platform game where you're constantly going up. And so you just have to keep jumping on these various platforms and not fall off. And there are various combos that you can do and everything. And so that's the game. The developer of it is the first person I know of that has put in the Gamerzilla achievements, that open source game achievement system that I created. So he put that in himself instead of me doing it. So I was happy to see that. There are lots of other games of this style where you just sit there jumping up forever. There's a GNU jump is one that the GNU project has, or at least someone's given it that name. I don't know if it's an official GNU project or not.
Okay. We are always going to be intrigued by new games. And Dennis, you are the game guru. Whether you're a GNU guru, doesn't matter. All right, back to, I think, the last item on the share here. Just back to it. Getting pretty good at this, I guess. We have a recommended reading section, and Dick wanted to call our attention to a new Linux starter's guide for people who are attempting to become users and want some help. Are you able?
I would very much like to invite everyone to look at that link. This may be the biggest Linux starter's guide I've ever seen. It's online, free. You can put it on your computer. You don't have to even go online. And I rather liked it, but I'm thinking of people who are just getting into Linux. That doesn't make me particularly qualified. I'm interested in everyone's take on it. Is it as good as I suspect it is? The first chapter was just what I wanted.
Did you go beyond that first intro chapter?
I've had a chance to look in some other corners, but I haven't read it smoothly. I'd like to, but that might be a month away.
Yeah, that's fine.
We've been busy.
In the meantime, many of us, we hope, will get a chance to take a look at it. I had one relatively uncomfortable reaction to it, like many internet sites of information, a lot of which we have links to in our agendas. That one, and I'll go to it so that I can show you. That one has a great deal of advertising associated with it. There's a donation opportunity down the right-hand side, but the information is often supported by this kind of spot in the middle. I can look past them, but I suspect that it is earning money by my being present. And I don't mind that they earn money, but I have a concern that here we have a Timu ad on the left, for example. And that has nothing to do with this particular site. It's how this site is making money beyond my coming to read it. I am not against the advertising, but I think we should be recognizing that those ads sometimes are tracking that we're looking at this along with many other things. So it's a regret I have about a lot of the stuff that's on the internet these days. To be there isn't just to give information out anymore. It is to make money for the people who are publishing the information, and maybe it's the only reason they're able to publish the information. But
Right.
it's a negative in my opinion.
Yeah, we run with several ad blockers, so we don't see most of the ads.
I absolutely agree. But on the opposite side, I'll point out that the AI and robotics and other things we read about are taking over more and more jobs from a significant segment of society. How we reshare the wealth, because we've lost a lot of the sharing over the last generation, more or less, that's a very big debate. And here we are with Linux wanting everything for free with no strings attached. And I think that's right. That's how I want my English language that I speak. And when I speak on the computer, I think should be no different. So I think it's not an invalid comment, but we've got to find some sources of income to make up for the growing losses. And I'm seeing more and more of that sort of bundling from independents. God knows it's been going on from the big ones all along. How to monetize the internet. I think it's a much bigger discussion. And meanwhile, if you've got a better one than this one to lean on, I'd like to know. I don't disagree one bit. Two different issues, and they're conflicting here.
Agreed. I don't want to mark down that particular site, but I was aware of the ads, and I thought it was important that we acknowledge that we are in this situation. And as an open source FOSS free software group, we need to try, I think, to always be aware of what we're linking to in our recommendations. And when we link to something that is almost the opposite of what we want, a sharing world, we should acknowledge that we've done it. I think rather than just saying, oh, this is the norm these days, expect us to provide information through these ad-supported channels that are providing us the information at a cost. We, I think, are attempting to do the opposite. We're trying to provide this information not at a cost to you, and we hope that you are benefiting even a tiny bit from our efforts. That's all.
Is it possible to flag sites that are particularly egregious in some way? Sort of like when you read the menu at a restaurant and there's a star, and at the bottom it says undercooked seafood and meat might, be dangerous to your
Might
health.
kill you.
Yeah. I will attempt, let's say, for the November meeting to try to add something like that. And that won't be a perfect agenda in next month's meeting, but we'll give it a shot. Anything that I am able to assess that is troubling to me personally, I'll mark, since it would take a great deal more coordination for everybody to feel the same way about a particular site. So I'll just make it my judgment at November's meeting, and maybe we can do better in meetings going forward.
Well, perhaps
Okay.
the submitter could make a comment as well.
That is true. For the record, to all of those who are simply watching us and not participating, we have a group that is nominally known as our board, the NatickFOSS board, that has access to the original version of our agenda. This is not the original version. The original version is currently on a GitHub wiki. Excuse me, not a GitHub, GitLab wiki. And we are using that as a shared space to add these items, which is why I don't always recognize them as the chair of this thing. But it has made our agenda development a more valuable process. I think we're getting better with what we talk about as well as how we talk about it. So I'm very happy with this new agenda process, which we'll continue to try to improve. But you made a good point there, Jill. As members of that board attach new items, they can say ad supported or something. We'll come up with a way to identify that this month. Go ahead, Bob.
With regard to that, I pulled out from the agenda the paywalled article and substituted one that's not paywalled from USA Today.
Excellent. And that agenda,
And that is usually my preference.
the agenda that we see at the archive page will be changed by sometime as early as tomorrow. I doubt that I'll get to it as quickly as the end of the meeting. So those of you who are active looking at our archives page on a monthly basis, or even more often, should find the links that you want to see, not just the ad supported ones. If we can provide better service, we'll try. Don't hesitate to join the discussion group, the email list that I mentioned before, and make your suggestions so that we can do a better job for you, the larger public. Okay, I think we're down to the last couple of items, which are questions. Should we have a page listing recommended software? This is something that came up based on conversations with a member, Laura, who has a list, which if we decide to do this, our page would link to that page, among other things. There was on the starter's guide a page of recommended software. Do you think, those of you who are here and now, we should have such a page to add to our list of items from the homepage, NatickFOSS.org?
Definitely. And in addition, I think it will link to a great many of our past talks. And the talks in turn will feed half the list, I suspect.
But we do need to, if we do that, we need to ensure there's maintenance to update it as things become unpreferred.
I would say that's very true. And it may turn out that we will want to have the page in a wiki format someplace, whether it is addition at the current GitLab wiki or some other place, so that all those who submit have access to it. I'm not sure we want to open it to the entire world, but right now the agenda is to a limited group, and this page might be set up that same way.
World writable wikis are a disaster.
I missed that.
World writable wikis are a disaster.
Yes, yes. And we certainly don't have the resources to have editors responsible to roll things back on a constant basis.
Correct.
Until they volunteer.
I doubt that we would have enough people to maintain a world writable Wikimedia kind of situation.
I had one and I shut it down.
Yep.
Not
And it'll
going
work
there
in any
again.
language if you use Firefox.
And the second question down there on questions and answers to wrap us up for the week, for the month. Should we have a page that lists our fundamental bios so that people who are coming from nearer or farther, other than people who've been here for a long time, can know who we are and why we spout every month about this software stuff?
Good question. And how open? So it would be open to anybody that would come in and look at the group?
That was the original suggestion, yes, that we have
What's the possibility that it could be used for nefarious, the information could be used for nefarious purposes?
I think we need to discuss what people post. I was thinking something on the order of computer background and that sort of thing, as opposed to real details about our personal life in any way.
One wouldn't want to put anything more detailed than what one already shares elsewhere.
Correct.
Right.
And I think we need to discuss the issue, and that would be something we might put on the discuss list email.
Good idea.
And we talk about many things on that which aren't covered in the monthly meetings, because that's the purpose of the discuss list. And we hope that more and more people will join that so that we can have significant offline, out of meeting discussions.
I think the initial discussions should be on the board group, not the discuss group.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that because we're suggesting the board members be exposed first here
Yeah.
before anybody else.
It's about us, so it's about us, so we should be the ones with the input.
Yes.
Right.
I'll go for that.
To be
And
continued.
We have a board email for that job that nobody else gets to but those who are members of the board. So we are working to make this a group thing rather than having it ride on the shoulders of one or two individuals. And from a monthly meeting perspective, it may not have changed all that much, but we're trying to organize effectively, and we hope it is not a bad thing for everybody else that's watching tomorrow or the next day or the next day.
Well, Algot, our meetings have evolved. We are much more participatory than we were just a few months ago.
I'm glad to hear it. I am very glad to hear that we are making progress.
Yeah. Before we leave the meeting, I just want to mention the question that Jill had about applications showing up gray on black because they're in dark mode, or this might be one of the causes. I don't think I did present that demo to this group, so maybe we should schedule that for next month.
Put it in
I
the
would like
agenda.
that.
And that's basically how to use dconf editor if your desktop environment uses it to get out of preferred dark mode.
Okay, I personally would like to thank everybody who participated in today's meeting. I don't think I said hello to John Thompson. And a few people have, I think, no, pretty much everybody stayed the whole time. Dennis, thank you for recording and preparing the links for us to allow the ability for people to see us on YouTube. And good luck with your new job, which has started or is starting this next week.
It starts on Monday, so
Woo-ha.
Oh, good luck, Dennis.
Hooray. And thank you for all the participation of everybody in this group. And I look forward to talking to some of you very soon and with everybody next month. See you in November.
I will be absent next month. I
Yes,
might try to log in. I'll be on a train.
it's tough to log in from a train.
Yep. We'll see how good Amtrak is with Wi-Fi.
All right.
Thank you all and happy birthday.
Yes.
Good night.